Aye, 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 it's cold. Mate, it's cold. Scheiße. Hey guys, it's Tom here from Pro Direct Running, and you join me in Tiergarten Park in Berlin on a very cold and overcast day. But I have got the absolute honour and privilege to be accompanied by my good friend Ben Felton from Ben is Running.
So here it is, the Nike Invincible 3. In today's video, we're going to talk you through our first impressions, having taken the shoe on a bit of a run this morning, as well as the key changes that the Invincible 3 has had in this update.
We're both very excited about this shoe, so let's jump into the key stats. So Ben, I know that like myself, you've worn the original Invincible and got a fair few miles in the Invincible too. What have you generally used the Invincible for in your training?
Yeah, so the Invincible for me has been a really good sort of easy day shoe when my legs are feeling a little bit beaten up. That ZoomX midsole on the predecessor is really soft and squishy and just helps protect the legs when they're feeling a little bit battered. And yeah, it's a really good daily shoe. Lots of miles, very durable, and it's really good for the rotation.
Maybe we start off with the upper. What's new here?
Yeah, so there's a little bit more room in the toe box, a bit more of a stripped back feel. It's the same sort of comfort that you have in the Invincible 2, that sort of plush feel when you lock down in the shoe. But yeah, I'd say there's a little bit more room and yeah, a little bit more of a stripped back feel.
Yeah, you're dead right. So when we spoke to the designer here in Berlin, the key product line manager for the whole Invincible series from its inception, he let us know that it has just been stripped back in the upper. They've made some other changes to the midsole and the width of the shoe and that kind of thing, which we'll get into in a little bit. But essentially having that stripped back upper doesn't sacrifice comfort, but it just adds to the breathability and makes it more accommodating to more runners.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing to note is the laces have changed slightly. I know some people didn't like the laces in the Invincible 2 because they're a little bit thick, but they've been replaced by some proper laces in the Invincible 3, so I'm glad to see that that's changed.
Proper laces, yeah. All right then, so that's the upper covered. If we move down to the midsole, this is obviously where the magic happens. It's what most people are going to be most interested in when they're buying a running shoe. What are the key changes that we got here?
Yeah, so we've got the same sort of ZoomX midsole that the Nike shoe has and has had from the get-go with the Invincible lineup. But this time it feels a little bit more like it's focused towards maybe a bit more stability. Feels a little bit firmer underfoot. I don't know if it's down to the heel counter or the added traction that this shoe has on the bottom of the shoe. It just feels a lot more stable underfoot, and it's not quite as flexible in the forefoot area.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if you look at the rear of the shoe on the midsole, you can see that the Invincible's always had this heel clip around the heel section. On the Invincible 3, however, it is extended a lot further, so it comes almost right down to the midfoot, like arch area. And essentially, exactly like you said, it's there to just aid with that inherent stability a little bit more.
But it's maintained that sort of 9mm drop. So in terms of the feel, it's quite a familiar feel. If you're somebody who's put a lot of miles into the Invincible 2 and you're looking to upgrade to the Invincible 3, you can expect a similar ride, but just with a little bit more stability underfoot. Yeah, and one final thing to add is the outsole on the shoes is slightly changed. So on the Invincible 3, the lug depth is slightly deeper, which means when you're running on trail and wetter surfaces, you get a little bit more traction. And I know that will also add to the durability of this one. So I think that's a really good update from Nike. It's going to be a one for the miles for sure.
Yeah, I know that one of the only real issues that I saw people having with the Invincible series up until now was some durability concerns. So there was some splitting of the upper away from the midsole, which happened quite frequently, and indeed on traditionally high wearing areas of the shoe, so the lateral heel and lateral forefoot area was getting significantly worn by some runners. So having that increased thickness of rubber here and that increased lug depth, like you spoke about, should just aid traction, durability. And we tried it out this morning. You know, around the park that we're at, you got a nice variety of flat pavement, dirt trails, and adds really no issues with grip on that sort of surface. But I guess probably important to mention, when we first got out of the hotel to go for a run in the shoe, the pavement's very slick and it's really cold here in Europe at the moment. It's about -2 when we went out the door. and it was a little bit slippery underfoot on those first few strides, but you're going to get that with any shoe when it's fresh out of the box, aren't you? We've spoken about ZoomX and how soft it is, but probably one of the most noticeable changes that I realised when just having the Invincible 3 in hand compared to the 2, it's just the increase in rigidity of the Invincible 3. There's really not much flexion at all throughout the midsole until you get right up to the forefoot area, whereas the Invincible 2, it's far more flexible. Obviously you've done more miles in this one, so it's going to be more malleable, but generally speaking, it feels a lot more rigid in the Invincible 3.
I definitely agree.
All right, so that's all of the key stats and updates out of the way. Ben, we took them for a spin this morning. How did you get on in the Invincible 3 on your first run?
Yeah, so this morning we did 10 kilometres, nice and steady, around 350 per kilometre. And the shoes felt really good, very, very comfortable, a nice familiar feel with that ZoomX underfoot, cushioned, but it also had that sort of added rigidity with this one. So I felt like the shoe is a little bit more stable than maybe the previous version, which for me is a really good improvement. Sometimes I found the Invincible 2 was a little bit too squishy underfoot, but this one, in terms of like ankle stability, I felt a lot more planted on the ground when I was running, especially at slightly more steady paces today.
Yeah, perfect. And in terms of fit, I went true to size with a UK 8.5, and I found absolutely no issues really for me. I've got plenty of room in the toe box. The only thing when I first put them on, lockdown didn't feel as secure walking around, but on the run, to be fair, I didn't notice at all. What about yourself? True to size?
Yeah, I went true to size, and I also had the same sort of feeling when I locked down the shoe. I went with the runner's knot. And I had enough laces to do that, and I didn't have any heel slippage or anything like that on the first run today. So in terms of the fit, I would say true to size, and yeah, it was a pretty good update.
Yeah, and like you say, you wouldn't traditionally reach for an Invincible when you're doing like a steady run or more of like a tempo effort, reaching into that kind of 340 per kilometre range. But I've got to say, I was really impressed with how they felt when we did start getting rolling in them. I think having that slightly thicker outsole coverage just adds to the responsiveness a bit. It's a bit firmer underfoot. It's more stable thanks to that extended heel clip. So you really just feel very planted, whereas the Invincible 2, there are a few little hairy moments if you go on some slightly uneven terrain, but here, absolutely no issues at all, and I wouldn't hesitate to reach them out again for a run like that.
Yeah, I think they're a great shoe if you're going sort of on holiday and you're looking for one shoe that can do everything pretty well. You can do recovery runs, easy runs, and even do a bit of steady running in them as well. So yeah, they're a great shoe for anyone's rotation.
Yeah, solid update all round, I think. So there we go, that's going to do it for our first look and first run impressions of the Nike Invincible 3. To summarise, I think if you've loved previous versions of the Invincible, you're going to find this a really solid update. But equally, if you've not worn previous versions of the Invincible 3 is a great place to start. It improves the stability, it's slightly more stripped back in the upper, and overall it just gives you that really nice, traditional, classic ZoomX feel underfoot.
So if you'd like to get your feet in a pair of the new Invincible 3, they are available now at ProDirect Running.
And if you want to see more of Ben's beautiful face on the ProDirect Running YouTube channel, make sure to drop us a like. Let us know what you think of the updates to the shoe in the comments down below, and turn your bell notifications on to never miss a future running upload.